WrestleMania Night 2. Roman Reigns is still your champion. Or is he your new champion? Your Universal, what's Imajigi, whatever they're calling it, champion. Whatever you call it that. Roman Reigns has won the main event of WrestleMania. The biggest match ever. All of the gold, all of the glory, all of the eggs, all of the Heyman. All of the eggs, all of the basket. The one match that actually matters on this entire two-night card. If you're like a WWE fan that has been watching Monday Night Raw and SmackDown over every single night, this is the only match that matters. You watch so many other things, there's like there's not continuity with many other storylines. It's all over the place. But with this match, it bloody matters. The effort was in there. With the build, this was the only match that matters. Then you get live to the show. And I'll be honest, both nights of WrestleMania, I really enjoyed them both, which is nice to say. Like, I feel like overall, night one was better. Yes, Ed in the chat, yes. I agree with that, actually, yeah. For me, I thought night one was overall better. I felt like night two delivered on the occasion better than it did on, like, individual quality. I feel like this was a much better... I think night two was much better in the sports entertainment side. To get a bit all nerdy with this shit first. I sworn in the first minute. Well done, mate. But yeah, with the sports entertainment side, I felt like they did a lot better with that side on this night. But then the like wrestling fan side of it, they did really well on night one. So like both sides were appeased over these two nights. There's not really I don't have much in the way of criticism. I felt like they did really well catering those two audiences. Like night one was really for the wrestling fan that pays attention. Night two was for maybe the one that doesn't pay attention as much. And for me, really solid two nights. There was a lot of matches throughout the shows. Not a lot. Like both nights had shows which had matches that didn't really matter particularly. They were just there. We got especially the amount of tag matches that were just fine. But then overall, like both shows also had matches that really delivered and made it feel like WrestleMania. Which when I was looking at the cards, I had that worry. Oh, this is actually going to feel like WrestleMania. Both nights did. Like, well done. It felt grand. It felt huge. When Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar were doing their entrances, I was just sitting here thinking, like, this just feels like night and day, like light years above what they're doing on TV. Like, just in terms of the kind of presentation of scale of how grand it all feels, how like every character feels like they're this larger than life personality in the best way possible, and like they're really delivering. The crowd is into every single beat that these guys are doing, and then I watched an episode of One Night Raw, and I'm tired. It's time of thing like, oh. I'm sorry, Frank, if I'm misleading. I genuinely enjoyed them. I genuinely enjoyed these. As of getting comments on it, let's start with Reigns Lesnar. Let's start there. As we talk about the match, I always normally just blabble on to how I enjoyed everything overall. Talk about the match first, how they actually ended the show. Again, all of the eggs in the one basket. This is the only match that matters, and they were really hyping up the crowd for this one. With every single match got a promo package, which I'm not sure on. Like as an English viewer, I am watching on the WWE network. Suck it, America. But if you're somebody who's watching Peacock and you're like, oh, these adverts, I don't like adverts. If I get rid of the adverts, would that be worth it? The answer is no. Because instead of getting adverts, you just get recaps and promos and inside WWE advertisements. Instead, whenever they would go to an advert on Peacock, we got the matches, basically. So, yeah. We got recaps of the matches from Saturday, is what we got. And it's like, if you're going to replay Bianca Belair's entrance, you've got to expect me to just have that song in my head whilst I'm watching the main event. That's just the expectation. You can't not expect that. I really love marching band entrances. And the fact they're, 14 years apart in WWE? They're rare enough where I can just live in it and go, right, that's my new one. That's the new one I'll go back and listen to because I love them. Anyway, so the match itself, the hype of the promo package, the grand entrances, you could feel the anticipation in the crowd a bit, but it was when they did Heyman's introduction of Reigns and they really got into it, with Reigns grabbing the mic as well, telling them to acknowledge him. This was like the first show that I properly realised people in the crowd holding their finger up as well, acknowledging their tribal chief. Obviously, I know they've been doing it, but this is where it felt like it was a thing for the first time. It probably was the thing before, and I did not be paying attention. Like WWE's production and editing doesn't make it the easiest thing to catch on to what's actually happening sometimes. But still, this was like they're really hyping up the crowd. Heyman's introduction for Roman Reigns with the normal spiel, but then Brock Lesnar grabbed the mic and he did it as well and got the crowd to join in with him. And yeah, he did really well there. That was brilliant. But yes, Dallas was hot for this, and I feel like in terms of my review for this, a lot of it is based on what did the crowd like. Because obviously, if I'm not massively into a thing, but the crowd is going crazy, I'm like, nah, he's clearly doing it for an audience. I can't lie here. I can't go, this is rubbish, whilst the crowd's going crazy. Because it obviously can't be rubbish if the crowd's going crazy. But still, like, this match was two bulls charging at each other. Brock launching out of the gate, Reigns spearing the beast through the barricade, finisher heavy. I've just realised I'm pretty certain I'm on the wrong microphone. Let me just sort this out. Audio, microphone. There he is. There he is. That should sound so much better. Right, that should be miles better. Oh dearie me, oh dearie me. But still, like this was like a finisher heavy off the bat. Reigns spearing the beast through the barricade. Like, yes, this was for me the match that the occasion kind of delivered, was asking for. Sorry, like this was all of the pairing's greatest hits that we've seen over the years, with like none of the additional faff trying to do something or whatever. Like, you've got your barricade charge, your suplex city finisher kickouts, charging spear into an F5 near fall. Brock's one weakness, the low blow to the dick, clobbered with the title to no avail. All of the hits that we have seen countless times since 2015 when these two have been put together, especially in the past, like, since 2018, we've seen the pairing so many times as well. Like, it's all of the same stuff we've seen countless times. So, if you're a wrestling fan that's been paying full attention, I can totally understand if this did nothing for you, because you've already seen it, and it didn't work back then. For me, the difference is that this time, the characters themselves for both Lesnar and Reigns are finally at the right place. Like, this feels like the night that Roman Reigns should win. Like, Reigns can finally be passed that torch. Like, the match wasn't anywhere near a classic, but it was exactly what the occasion called for. Like, Roman now donned the Undisputed Universal Champion, posing for that awesome shot on the stage as pyro fires off behind him. They cut to, again, what would be a great shot of the stadium with the fireworks going off, aside from the fact that they put a WrestleMania logo AR'd over the top of it that looked like shit. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah, you had a great shot and you ruined it with AR. Yeah. Yeah, all for the course. I think, like, really the only AR this night that I didn't mind, I don't mind Ripley's, because you can at least see through it. I don't like the ones which are like a big obscuring object, like Roman Reigns' one. It's like, yeah, cool. I can't see your main champion walking out because there's a gigantic AR graphic. Surely you can spot the problem there. Like, I don't mind Lesnar's, because the way they use it is often like to the side, and then you can see the stage still. I don't like the ones that cover up the stage. For me, that is stupid. What are you doing? If it's inside as well, if you don't like them, you can still focus on the thing. But if it's front and centre and you can't see through it, you can't see round it, can't go over it, can't go under it. Why am I going with that child song reference? Anyway, it was for me, it was a main event that delivered on the expectation, really. But anyway, in the chat, saying pissed how it ended. For me, that is what the occasion called for. It wasn't a classic wrestling thing. Like, yesterday had the really strong kind of giving in that sense. Today, not as much. This was more what the occasion was calling for, and yeah, two bulls charging at each other out the gate, giving us the greatest hits of like the numerous matches we've seen between these guys. Which is kind of why I was saying this was the night if you are not watching WWE like every week or whatever. This was that, because if you don't do that, then maybe you've not seen them wrestle countless times. Or if you do, you're really into it. Maybe, if you're that kind of fan. Yeah, this was not the wrestling purists night. But it's, again, when the occasion calls for it, you don't need the match to be this crazy 5-star classic. Because, you can play off the atmosphere and everything. And that's what this match did. It was two bulls charging out the gate. It was a typical Lesnar main event. It's what it was. But he didn't win. Roman Reigns did, because the character was finally in the right place. They were finally able to have that match that they've been wanting to have for a really long time. But I'm not falling over myself, like applauding the match or anything. Like, yeah, well, you did it. You did the massive hype, and I felt like the match. They were calling it the biggest main event of all time, and basically the rhythm of the match for me was they are not going to let any of the hype die. Like, no rest spots, just go, go, go. And it's like, I'm fine with that being at WrestleMania. Like, yeah, I'd like, in terms of, would you not have preferred a 5-star classic, like an amazing thing? Like, I got that yesterday. Like, WrestleMania did give me that. So, like, yeah, I got my complete zany silliness. I got my 5-star classic, and I got my charging bulls. Like, I got a mix. I got a variation. Like, I'm a fan of variation on a wrestling show. The last thing I want is every match to be the same in a way. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes, I've not actually said what the ending was. Thank you, Frank. I had forgotten to read that part of my notes. But anyway, so Roman Reigns is... he gets caught in the Kimura lock, and Roman Reigns is wrenching the arm back. He reaches for the ropes. When they showed the replay, you can see that Roman Reigns was helped by Heyman to get to the ropes and just survive. Brock Lesnar is essentially amping up, but then Reigns catches him with a spear. Of course, that sounds like nothing, but throughout the match, Roman Reigns has already hit multiple Superman punches and spears and then gone to guillotine him down. So Lesnar is worn down by that point. So when he finally hits the charging spear, because I think he hit the double ropes as well for the super spear. So yeah, down goes Lesnar for that. But it's one of those where, because it was 2 charging balls for the entire thing, very quickly going to finish a kick out. So he hit like 5 Superman punches. Lesnar hits an F5, Reigns kicks out of it. Reigns hits a spear, Lesnar kicks out of it. Reigns gets the guillotine, Lesnar gets the Kimura lock. There was one weird spot where Reigns was kind of like staggering to his feet. Reigns then calls for him to stand up, and it's like he was going for a spear, but then he just kind of like jumped on his back, and they both fell over. And I was like, I don't know if the idea was let's go for a high spear to the back which grounds him. But it didn't look like anything. It didn't look like they collided into each other, but it didn't look like a move that did a thing. It was really weird. But yeah, aside from that, yeah, 2 charging balls. Like the spot where they charged him into the barricade, that was really early on in the match. So yeah, this was what the occasion called for. It was that match. But again, if you're tuning into WrestleMania with like what are like the best matches to check out, I'm not going to recommend this one, but I will say, if you do enjoy the charging bull matches, there's 2 big lads doing big lad wrestling, finishers galore, then this is your match. This is that. It's like it's what I liked about Lesnar versus Goldberg, where it was just that. It was like 2.5 minutes, and from the first bell, it was just immediately into the like it's like the referee before the bell goes, right, time to go home. And they just charge, go. This match was the same, like longer than that. So we'll see. But they finally crowned Reigns, and on this show itself, they achieved it. They finally did it. He is their big star. He is their golden goose. They put all of the eggs in the one basket, and yeah, it works. The goose is laid. I'm not going to use that phrase again. But still, yeah, really a really strong main event. So, yeah, we'll see. In terms of like what comes like after, like in terms of like after this, I don't know. Weirdly, I'm not massively right now. I'm not like concerned with the after, because with WWE, I know that kind of outside of this WrestleMania period, because I like keep up with the product, I know. Because they've put all of their eggs in one basket, and Lesnar is obviously like done after this, unless they got to sell a Saudi Arabia thing. But I don't think they're going back till like late in the summer, maybe like August or September. But that means that there is no next person for Reigns. They haven't built up anybody. There is no star. There is no guy waiting in the wings to take that next step. There is nobody. Like, there was talk of Ricochet being primed for it. He wins the US title and think, oh, right, that's cool. That's maybe like the next step in getting Ricochet ready to be like a big baby face on SmackDown. Like, for me, Ricochet's a perfect guy to get the fans behind and then have Reigns destroy. Like, he's that. I don't need Ricochet to win, but you can give me enough for Reigns to destroy him. But then he's in the Battle Royal. Like, there is no showcase to elevate him. So if they're going to do it, it's not going to have that same kind of gusto as him winning the US title, then having a strong defense
on the show. Like, no. He wins the US title, and then he's in the Battle Royal not winning. It's like, okay, cool. Yes. Anyway, so first off, let's get through the questions before then start going through the show. So first off, is next year's WrestleMania going to be all celebrities and old timers? I mean, in the current state where they haven't built up that next generation of people to take on Reigns, they're gonna have to do it again. I felt like this year they did the balance pretty well. I guess what helped is like the women's divisions, especially because women's division like with Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, they're doing the one thing that Roman Reigns' generation on the men's side has never done, which it feels crazy to say all these years later. And what I mean by that is it's two current generation people fighting over the top titles. Ronda Rousey obviously like the bigger name star, but you got Lynch versus Belair. In WWE, in terms of like the actual main event, you haven't had like one single match that has just been guys of this generation, which is crazy. The closest we got was Daniel Bryan also being in the main event, but it was set to be Reigns versus Edge. And as great as Edge is, like, he's not a current generation guy. I feel like him leading a stable is perfect for him, absolutely perfect. But in terms of like because we have Lesnar Reigns, Triple H Reigns, Undertaker Reigns, Brock Lesnar Reigns, we're still at that point like, oh my god, yeah, we've not the current generation of WWE, there still isn't somebody. It's like, oh dear. And then there's what was 2019? 2019 was what was 2019? Oh, that was the women main eventing, but on the men's side, Roman Reigns was injured. You got Rollins defeating Lesnar, which again 5 because that's not somebody versus somebody. Then in 2020, you got Drew McIntyre versus Lesnar and Goldberg versus Strowman, which was meant to be Goldberg Reigns. So 6 years at that point, same thing. Then after that, the 2021, we then come back to Edge being in the main event with the Reigns thing. And then there's this year, which is again Roman versus Lesnar, which means 8 WrestleManias without a current generation 2 guys just facing each other. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. It's for me, that's crazy to think. And in the one before that, you're talking Daniel Bryan winning. That was again against not current generation guys. Like, it is crazy for me. That's the next step. They have to spend the next year building up a star to take down Reigns, even if it's the idea of somebody. You leave it to WrestleMania to actually dethrone him because you're actually building up the challenger. That's where the effort goes. They've absolutely nailed the effort in making Reigns feel like a massive star, a massive champion, a really big deal. The next thing is to build up the challenger. So for me, there is absolutely nobody primed for that position. Which is like, for me, that's the, in terms of like what do we need to do in time for WrestleMania next year, that is the number one priority for me. Build up somebody to defeat Roman. But it doesn't mean they have to do it, but actually build somebody up. Because they've not done it. Like there is nobody. For me, McIntyre is cooled massively. I would still build up to Reigns versus McIntyre, maybe for SummerSlam, but McIntyre's not the guy to defeat him because you called him down. He didn't carry that momentum. He is not that guy. He's a big star. Could get a big match from him for SummerSlam, but he's not the guy to dethrone Reigns. Which is why I'm kind of saying SummerSlam, because for me, Reigns stays champion to WrestleMania next year, and hopefully you've built somebody for him to beat. Because if you haven't, I don't care who it is, he retains. So, yeah, and if they want to do a big match, then they're going to have to call on somebody from the past, like a big name. Like The Rock, which leads into the next question. Are they... I know, because is maybe The Rock returning tomorrow? That, I don't think so. I don't think The Rock is going to do that. There is that expectation because, I guess, The Rock has already done it in the past, where showed up and they set up The Rock versus John Cena 1 year in advance. That's not what you do here, because if you do that, then the fans already know that Roman Reigns is going to retain the title all the way to WrestleMania next year, which is not really what you do for me. Like, if you are doing Reigns versus The Rock, if that is happening already, number one, are they going to bother building up somebody to defeat Reigns? Because what I was saying in terms of it doesn't have to happen, you can still do that. Just don't have the guy face Reigns at WrestleMania if Reigns is facing The Rock, and give that guy a big match himself. Make that person feel like a big deal. Hell, even they could defeat McIntyre or something. Just somebody being built up to dethrone Reigns. I don't care who it is. It could be, there's so many talented people on that roster. It could be of a massive selection of people. Just pick someone, go with it. It's just start boiling them. Like start boiling them this very next week. Just they need to do it because they're in big trouble because they can't keep doing Reigns versus a big name from the past as they've done for every single WrestleMania he's main evented. Roman Reigns has not faced one-on-one. I guess because he has done Daniel Bryan, but the point I was making, he's not faced a single person this generation in the main event aside from Triple Threat Daniel Bryan. Like one-on-one, it's not happened. It's been someone who isn't that the end every single time. Which at this point, with like I think this was his 6th WrestleMania main event. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. Anyway, but that's why for me the women feel like in a much better state at times because they're able to do that. It's their current generation doing all this. So, yeah. Anyway, so next question: are they ending the brand split with the title unifications? So the answer is no. So basically the title unification was an idea to really sell this match as like the biggest thing ever and to put all of the eggs in the basket. All the titles in there to make this the biggest match ever. They needed to make it like a title unification thing. However, the USA Network and Fox, they both still want their own titles, so they're just gonna have to create another title. Like they don't want the joint titles. So it was an idea to make this match feel like a really big deal, but the USA and Fox want their separate titles. So they're not going to have a unified titles over two halves. The different brands aren't going to be put together. Like it's it's one of those situations where there's no good way back because you're just going to have to introduce a new title, and I'll just go for that. And I think this one's going to be currently called the Undisputed Universal Championship. I don't know what the one on Raw is going to be called. I don't know how long we're going to be without a title before they just introduce the new one. Maybe they fight for it at SummerSlam, but I don't really know. It's an interesting situation because you're going to have a Raw without a title for maybe quite a long time. It's a shame. It's a shame. And also, I just saw the question pop up of what's the name of the unified title. You probably typed that before it's reached the live thing, so that's unfortunate. Anyway, final question before we then go through the show: does Cody beat Roman for the belts? If you cook him. It's COOK. Why did I make that distinction in my head? What is wrong with me? If you boil him, heat him in a stew. If you get him fluffing, if you do that, then possibly this was in Cody Rhodes. They have got a big star making a massive impression for the first time in a really long time. Maybe the last guy to do that was Reigns himself returning in with this new amazing heel persona. Like they haven't had a massive impactful debut like this since then. Which you could class that as like a re-debut. So yeah. Which is he could win. he could win, but they need to put the effort in to heat him up. Like he could be that guy, and keeping him on Raw, if Roman Reigns is going to face The Rock at next year's WrestleMania, maybe the best way to heat up the guy who's going to take the title off him is to not have him on SmackDown and really give him that run and heat him up that way, make him like a really big deal on Monday Night Raw, then when they switch. Because that was the thing that got me with Drew McIntyre. Like they'd done it with Drew. They heated this guy up. Raw was his show where he was running riot. He got made into a really big deal. He came to SmackDown and they just haven't done the match. And then he got injured, so there wasn't that opportunity really. And then I feel like his and Bobby Lashley's WrestleManias, yes, they were a bit like, second match on the card, both kind of nothing matches. But for me, it's like, but they were both injured and then got kind of like late programs. It's like, and I'm counting the Royal Rumble as like a late, like a return thing for McIntyre because it's kind of like with a subpar thing. Like, whatever. So is the WWE title gone? The answer is, yeah, it's just gone. They maybe the title they've introduced on Raw might be called the WWE Championship, but currently it's unified with the other one. Kind of like when, I guess it's like when the Undertaker unified the titles, but where it was called the Undisputed. Was it Undisputed WWE Championship, WWF Championship? I think that was That was the full name. So there's a Undisputed Championship, and then they did later. I think that was the one that went through all the way into the brand split happening, if I'm right. Maybe. Oh, it's a bit grey. 20 years is a long time. I can't remember. But I was going to say, because I wasn't watching wrestling back then, but that was my era of the video game. SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, the year they did the brand split. So every time you started your career mode, you were one of the general managers, and you did the brand split. And I was like, I love that. So you got to pick imagine a career mode where you got to pick your own roster and go through it. It was basically like an early universe mode. Oh, it's really strong. Tangent. Let's get back on track. So the answer is yeah, the WWE title is just gone for now. The Monday Night Raw that you've seen going into WrestleMania, and if that thought was, maybe WrestleMania will then give them like a kind of a rejig, kind of jolt them back to life, they can maybe then just reintroduce a title and really start to rebuild the brand into feeling like a bigger deal with direction. The answer is currently no. There is no title. The Raw that you've seen going into WrestleMania is the same Raw coming out of it, which is like, that's a bit of a worry. Like, for me, I'm not a massive fan of a show not having like a main kind of spearhead attraction at the top in terms of the title. It's like, yeah, it's a weird one. They have got Bianca Belair, but the women's side is so much better on Raw than it is on SmackDown, just because the SmackDown form feels very thin. And like, outside of who's challenging at the top title, to be fair, the men's is pretty similar. They've done so badly in creating depth in their divisions that once the challenges happened, you've got no idea who's next. there's no one built up. Like, what are they going to do? But yeah, so Raw has no top title, and Finn Balor, their only other male champion, was not on the show. He was in the Battle Royal with Ricochet. Oh dear. Like that for me, the US and the IC titles not being on the show. Like the main reason why that feels so detrimental, like this year specifically, because I've done it before where like one of those titles hasn't been on the show. It's not rare for that to happen. It's the fact that it's both. It's not out the realms of WWE kind of logic for that to happen. Like that, I'm fine with. It's the fact that it's this year of all years, where one of the really big problems that WWE have is that there are no challengers in line to go for their top titles, and they really need to start building somebody. Then both of your mid-card titles aren't on the show. Neither of your champions are represented or built up in that way. It's a shame. It's a shame. Anyway, we're going to go through the show in order now for night 2, going through all the other matches. So let's jump in. So first off, surprise Triple H kicks us off all the way back. Feels like it was a lifetime ago. A full entrance and all as he drinks and breathes it all in. Adulation from the crowd as he then says thank you back. Welcomes us to WrestleMania. And more importantly, leaves his boots in the ring. Because of his health condition, he's now got a pacemaker. He cannot wrestle. So he's been forced into retirement. And this was like a lovely, like a really earned moment. And he got his big send-off moment, even though he wasn't able to do it with a retirement match as he likely would have liked. Instead, he gets his big WrestleMania goodbye in that way. And also welcomes us to the show. Gets things underway with the Raw Tag Team Championship. RK Bro versus Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. The most popular tag team in modern day WWE gets us underway. And yeah, hell of a pace to get the show underway. Montez Ford leaping out the ring, jumping over the ring post and landing on his feet. Yeah, that was a surefire sign of things to come in this match. Like 3 men in the ring at a time is my favourite version of this format. With the women, we saw 2 in at a time at once. And for me, I'm not a massive fan. Like, don't give me no 2 at once. Give me chaos. Give me chaos. Thinning the field gradually for a white-hot Orton tag. Jesus Christ, was Orton over on this show. He got huge pops for everything. RK Bro as a whole as well, just incredibly over. An incredible leap from Ford as he flew high for a blockbuster off of Dawkins' shoulders. The height was insane. It looked incredible. Another huge pop as Ford goes for a frog splash, but Riddle springboarded in with an RKO. They got a massive reaction. Followed up by Gable's crossbody, also caught with an RKO from Orton for the win. White hot start from the show. All of these guys killed it, all 6 of them. It was the exact kind of high-paced chaos that you would have wanted from a 3-man tag match like this. And again, what really happened, what really helped, was the fact that all 3 were in at once. There wasn't a team just waiting on the sidelines, as we got with the women's tag later. there's always just calling back to their own guys, and that, for me, that massively helped. And when somebody was down, they were like they're in the ring still, just laying down because they were the legal guy. They weren't at ringside doing something or anything. But yeah, massive applause for this. Fantastic opener, perfect way to start off the show. The mid card. I was thinking, could the mid card have used a match like this? But no, I think this is a perfectly fine way. Like yesterday, yesterday made a really bad first impression. Night one, the first two matches were very nothing, and just very. A phrase I heard and the phrase I used myself as well, where SmackDown WrestleMania was based. It felt like that, which was like a real, like not a good first impression. Then you get to tonight, and it's the exact opposite. Like amazing first impression. This match was an absolute pace setter. Really, really well done. Post match, Street Profits offering drinks to RK Bro and Gable Stevenson. Chad Gable then smacking the cup out of the other Gable's hands. That's going to become difficult. And off comes the shirt. The Olympic gold medalist is ready to fight. Oh, yeah, Chad, he effed up. Suplexing and tossing the man overhead from the young lion boobs guy. Yeah, first time I've seen Gable Stevenson with his shirt off going, yeah! He's got 2 lion tattoos on his chest, so I'm going to do really well not to call him lion boobs. Well done me. Never to his face. No, obviously. That man could beat the shit out of me. He's a gold medalist, for Christ's sake. But yeah, a really, really fast-paced match to open the show, get the crowd alive and cheering, and then you give them a cool celebrity moment as well, as they really do hype up Gable. Gable Stevenson. Like yesterday, Stephanie McMahon brought him out. Today he was at ringside and Triple H saw just to shake his hand and get him on camera. So we all know he's there for the Raw Tag Team match, and they called him into the ring. Then it's his music that's playing when the segment ends. Oh, they're hyping up a lot of this guy. Don't rush him. Like, if he's going to be great, if he could be like an incredible level talent, don't rush him, please. Please don't. Anyway, speaking of pushing when not ready, it's Omos versus Bobby Lashley. Time for the tall man. Yeah, the opposite of whatever the first, like your really lightning quick opening match that sets the pace. And it's a bear. The other one's a bear. Thank you. I generally thought it was 2 lions. Maybe it's my English thing, but I see one lion and I see another furry animal. I just assume it's another lion. Because with England, we've got our 3 lions on the shirt, which is it's our national animal. I think. I'm pretty certain that's the case. A lion on a bear in his chest. At least that kills my silly nickname for him. At least I've been saved from that embarrassment. But yes, so Omos, the very tall man, versus big bustly Bobbles Lashes, who I like Lashley's entrance as well. He got to feel like a big deal with the big heavy drums as he's posing on stage, and yeah, this was nice, I guess. Like it's not a lot to say with this match. You know, like big boys at clockers Omos dwarves over Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley is not a small man. It's just like nothing. This match was nothing crazy though, but like built decently, like building to that spot of the Bobby getting his big power moment, powering Omos up to like a big reaction from the crowd. But it's not really that much to say. What was it? A tad of a scary moment when Bobby's head bounced off of the ring post when Omos charged in high into the corner, just a little bit too high. And Bobby then bent over backwards, bashed his head on the ring post, and Mita's like, Jesus Christ, oh my God, is he okay? Yeah, he was fine. He was perfectly fine. It's like, damn, Lashley's got a strong head. Yeah, and this was like a nice win for Lashley. It gets to look strong and powerful, and the match itself was put together smartly in doing that. Also, Lashley himself was like bumping like a boss. Like he was doing everything he could to make Omos look like he's an amazing strong guy. Like leaping off the turnbuckle with a crossbody. like Lashley is wrestling as the lighter athletic one when normally he's big muscly guy dominating. And yeah, like it's just Omos is just very limited. Coming along and improving, but still very limited. Yeah, if anything, a nice little thing that gets like the previously injured Lashley's like on the big show last minute. Something for the guy who he might not ever been on the show, but they found something for him to just at least be there. Yeah, given that in the run up to WrestleMania, there's just the thought that he wouldn't be on the show. So yeah, it was fine. It was put together nicely for what it was, but also not memorable in the slightest. brings us on to match number 3. No disqualification. Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. A big celebrity moment. And for me, this was a perfect little bit of extremely silly celebrity fun. Obviously, your bar for this depends on your bar for extremely silly. That's exactly what this was. But this time, with a celebrity who doesn't give a shit about bumps and scars. The crazy, crazy man that is Johnny Knoxville and the Jackass crew. The crowd absolutely loved this. Using the crowd as a barometer, they were going crazy. They loved the zaniness of this. And immediately off the bat, it was booked in a way where the wrestler was dominating the non-competitor till the other Jackass guys came along and suddenly like a 6-on-1 handicap match. Of course, Sami Zayn struggled to fight back against that. And he can cry about the unfair odds and everything when he's on SmackDown tomorrow or whenever. But I looked at that dynamic. I was like, yes, I'm fine with that. Yeah, that works really well. Knoxville willing to take all of the bumps like the crazy bastard that he is. Like, yeah, sure. Why not take an exploder suplex through a table halfway through the match? Yeah, sure. And all of the friends out to say hello as preteen me pops huge. I think when Jackass became big, I would have been 10. So 10, 11. So I'm of that age where I would have loved it. Because that level of silly is the perfect kind of humour for somebody age like that. And yeah, out came Party Boy. The crowd erupting for Wee Man. And the loudest pop of the match possibly as he delivers a body slam to Sami. Just my God. That was an awesome moment in this match. Especially the crowd reaction to it was like, it was the greatest thing ever. Out came all of the toys. A prosthetic leg attached to a lever. Ooh, that'll come in later. Pyro out from the ring post. A taser. Tongs to the balls. A giant hand swinging out of nowhere. Mark Henry on Twitter with an amazing tweet just saying, all I'm doing is just constantly churning out next generation talent as the hand makes a WrestleMania debut. Really good. Sami Zayn crashing into a table covered in mousetraps. It was like, oh yeah, PWG reaches the heights of WrestleMania. As he's down, the Jackass crew set up a giant mousetrap. It's like, okay. So the table covered in mousetraps was basically there to make the giant mousetrap not seem completely mental. It's like, I'm sorry, where did this come from? Like, no. You already know that mousetraps is on the mind. Because when he pulled out the table, it was like, oh, Johnny, was this you? When he sees the table covered in mousetraps. Because he puts his hand on it and gets like a snap. He's like, what was that? And yeah, mousetraps on the table. That means mousetraps were on the mind of the designer. So it's not, the leap to a giant mousetrap feels a little bit more in reality. You can see the line of thought. It's there. Yeah. Then that mousetrap is used to pin Sami Zayn down so he's unable to kick out as Johnny soars to 3. It's like, oh, amazing. Like, ridiculous in all of the best ways. That's what this match was. Absolutely ridiculous. Complete nonsense. The silliest thing I've watched in quite a while. But it was also brilliant in that way. It's exactly what I want this match to be. Either that or Johnny Knoxville takes a crazy bump. They're the only two things. And I don't think Johnny Knoxville should be taking that kind of thing. Especially, I think there was something about his health. I was like, probably shouldn't be doing craziest stuff. We did take an exploder suplex through a table halfway through the match. Yeah. And Sami Zayn, like, round of applause. An absolute pro. So good. He was the absolute perfect person for this. And yeah, he kind of held the story in there as we lead into this just complete nonsense. And he's getting kicked in the dick, tasered in the dick, pinned down by a mousetrap. It's like, he just painted that story so it felt like he was getting his comeuppance so damn well. Yeah, really, really great stuff. Yeah, can't applaud Sami Zayn enough. And the celebrities don't lose is the rule for WrestleMania. And Jackass getting their big moment. Well done for them. Round of applause. It certainly does in the best way possible. Right, after that, the Women's Tag Team Championship, or the come down match, unfortunately for them. I mean, it was made to feel like a biggish deal with the entrances, but then when the match played out, I was like, okay, this feels like a momentum kind of calming down between crazy zany Jackass stuff. We just watched a man get pinned by a mousetrap. a giant mousetrap that didn't work. And Johnny Knoxville had to reach in, kind of untether the lever himself so that the plasticky stuff would swing over and land on Sammy. It was just, yeah. Then after this is Edge versus AJ Styles. So this is like a momentum kind of readjuster before that. But yes, the Women's Tag Team Championships in a 4-way match. Zelina Vega and Carmella, the champions, defending against Naomi and Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks turning up in, I think, a Bugatti. I don't do cars good. That was a really strong WrestleMania entrance. Good for them. Versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, breaking my Twitter feed. I cannot explain to you what happened to my Twitter feed when they made that entrance. It's just, yeah, it got a reaction. I was like, I'm on YouTube. I can't go into detail. It got a reaction. And Shayna Baszler and Natalya, the final ones out as well. Like, this was infinitely better than last year's 2 offerings. Like, I think what kind of helped with that is they did have I'm trying to think. They had talented folk that there wasn't really anything that big for. They didn't have anything bigger for them. So I was like, I'll just put them in this. There's something on the line. It's something to contend for. So when you've got Sasha Banks and Rhea Ripley and the crowd are going crazy for them staring down each other, that really helps a match like this. Like last year's 2 matches didn't have that. Last year's duos were the afterflow. They were the overflow in a way. Whilst this was not the afterthought because that's the battle royal, but this was we kind of want to get these specific people on the card. Let's just give them this thing. It's closer to that. And yeah, Naomi and Sasha Banks picking up the win as well, which is like, yeah, well done for them. Some good stats coming off of that. Something to go with. Does it make me think that the women's division, now that Sasha Banks is one of the champions, will get a strong direction? No. Because I've watched how they've put the titles for 2 years. Or was it 3 years at that point because they were introduced in 2019? Oh my word. It really is. It really is. In that entire time, the booking of the championships has been identically the same from feud to feud, which is mental. The rhythm of the booking in terms of how you generate a number one contender, how they become number one contenders, how they then go through the feud. It's exactly the same, rinse and repeat for every single rivalry, which is absolutely insane to say that that's been happening for 3 years. So, do I believe that Naomi and Sasha Banks winning the titles is going to change that? No. Do I want to be proven wrong? Yes. Obviously, yes. So, what didn't convince me as well is before it was time to start setting up this match, these teams didn't exist. Like Zelina Vega and Carmella was an odd win in the first place, winning the titles off Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley. It felt like Ripley might be going in a WrestleMania direction. Then she didn't win the Chamber because, of course, didn't the Bianca Belair run. And then there was nothing for Ripley, so just fell back into another tag team. I would say Morgan and Ripley is a lot stronger. Much better change of direction for a duo. And Naomi and Sasha Banks are a really strong team as well. Baszler and Natalya completely thrown together. Like, no previous kind of relation and working. Just suddenly, we need a fourth pairing. Those people aren't doing anything. Let's give them that. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The match itself was perfectly fine. Like, something on the line for a load of talented folk where there wasn't anything bigger for. The crowd hot for the two-face teams, which is a good sign. Reacting strong to the big double towers of doom and closing franticness. Banks and Naomi winning with a nice roll through into an assisted code breaker. Sasha Banks's that was really sweet as well. Really good finisher in the end. Also the riptide into the backbreaker with the Ripley and Morgan. That was really good as well. Sasha Banks's first WrestleMania win. She's 6-1. Whilst Naomi, in terms of her stats, she's now won the Women's Championship, the Women's Mania Battle Royal, and the Women's Tag Team belts. It's like, good for her. There's something there to celebrate. I feel like that sums up this match. Good for them. There's something there to celebrate. But it is, in terms of the pacing of the show, this is your momentum reconfigurer after we watched crazy bollocks and then we're getting into much hyped match. And Edge vs AJ Styles, I'm not sure how I felt with this one. I'm genuinely not sure. Where I felt like I was both enjoying it and both checking out at the same time, which makes me think, there's something that's not quite clicking for me. But in terms of applause, Edge's evil overlord entrance was amazing. It was incredible. Just the way that he rose up in his throne, surrounded by fire, walks down the steps as that fire kind of bursts out, and also Bridges' song kicks into its awesome gear. He's making way down the ramp. Amazing entrance. Speaking of amazing entrances, AJ Styles, who walks down the ramp as we're all on social media in confusion. Why is AJ Styles bleeding quite a bit from the cheek? It's dripping down his face. You can see where the mark is on his cheek. It's like, oh, whatever he's done has left quite a mark on him, and he's bleeding. Like, gonna have to patch that up when he gets to the ring. Like, this is interesting. Is he just trying to get through his entrance before they can check him up? Well, like, what's going on here? Was there a fight? No. Did he get hit by the pyro? What happened? No, as well. It did eventually come out during the match that AJ Styles had just walked into the staging. He'd walked into the giant star. Somehow walked out from the curtain, just banged his head on the giant star that was there. He's walking out. Yeah, it's both hilarious and unfortunate. It's like, that sucks for AJ. It mean he cut himself open walking into the staging as he was walking out. Hilarious. And again, that sucks as well for that to happen on the big stage as well. Oh well. But at least he wasn't hit by the pyro. That would have been a lot worse. Anyway, this match was two vets delivering something both absolutely solid and something that didn't really hold my attention that strongly. It's a weird one. It's why I didn't mind as much Damian Priest just looking at AJ, and then him and Damian Priest and Edge in the ending just looking at each other and doing that laughter. Ha! We're heels teaming up. Whoa! It was like, well, Damian Priest didn't do anything. He just turned up on ringside and looked at AJ, and that was enough of a distraction. To be fair, that's what they were setting up. Was that neither of these guys were able to put each other away, and they were looking for whatever that final thing would be, just to create that tiny opportunity. And Edge is the ultimate opportunist. AJ Styles, having him set up for the phenomenal forearm to win, Damian Priest then suddenly just generates and forms at ringside, looks at him, and that creates enough. It was like 2, maybe 3 seconds looking at the guy, and then springboards in and is caught with the one spot that we wanted to see. The phenomenal forearm springboarding into getting caught by the spear. Just yes. Absolutely yes. And they did it. So round of applause for that. And the match itself, this was our first match of night 2 with the fans in dueling chant applause, which means they've done something right in the build, in the way. They got you to care that way. The story of the match itself, Edge trying to turn AJ into a one-armed man, failing, and then going hell for leather. Like, yes, I love that idea. Like, really nice that Edge remembered 2020 and targeted the same arm as AJ he accidentally injured in his Rumble return. Like, this match was chock-a-block full of, like, really nice little details. That AJ nailing the Styles Clash, but he can't hook the leg correctly because he does that with the same arm that's been damaged. It's just, and he don't realise when he goes to hook, and then you're like, oh wait, no, he can't get the armband correctly. Therefore, the pressure's not there to apply the pin. Perfectly fine with Edge kicking out of the Styles Clash. But I don't know, the match didn't keep my interest, because I wouldn't say it didn't grab me. Edge's entrance, Jesus Christ, had my attention. When the match was starting, I was there. I was in. What they were doing was just so well executed. I feel like this match was still so well executed. It just didn't hold my attention, which is there wasn't anything like off with it in terms of how they were doing it or anything like that. Like, no, they executed this match really well. Absolutely solid. There were two veterans executing an absolutely solid match. Me personally, it just didn't hold my attention. I was drifting away, checking social media and things, and when I'm into a match, I don't do that. I can tune out social media pretty easily when I'm genuinely just enjoying a thing. But it didn't hold my attention. Whatever the reason was, it just didn't do that. Maybe the pacing of it was off, but I could still tell it was perfectly executed. So it's a weird one. All leading up to the final note in the building of the much-rumoured Edge-led heel stable, yes please, and seeing his evil overlord brood form doing so, oh yes, got me excited for it. And Damian Priest, an absolute perfect guy to put in that role. He fits the feel I think they're going for, which I'm picturing in my head, that kind of close to brood gothicness. It fits it really well. There's nothing like that company in WWE. So go for it. Damian Priest making his presence made at ringside, and they do the little kind of laugh afterwards and up the ramp to fade away. and make themselves obsolete. Obsolete. It's an obsolete reference now, isn't it? Matt Hardy isn't that anymore. He's been through an entire cycle of another gimmick. That bit's dead. It's fine. Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Butch. As a British wrestling fan, obviously it stings. Versus New Day. And I've got way more notes written for this than it deserves. It's the kind of best way to put this. Woods and Kingston in Big E gear was lovely to see. Them coming out and doing his kind of hip swivel with the thing. That was great to see. A match with a couple nice moments as New Day paid homage to their friend. With the opposite of that in Pete Butch running like a rapid spark, charging constantly at the lads during the match. Like, he just needed to get at the ball. And they're having to hold him back because he's so rapid. It's like, this is a shame. We're not going to get any form. I'm going to get any form of the great wrestler we know that guy is, instead of just crazy crap gimmick, whatever this is. I will call this as well that the only questionable booking of this Mania. I was perfectly happy with every single booking decision made on this show. This is the only one. And the same with yesterday as well. Like, there were not one point did I go, typical WWE. I didn't do that once, because all the calls were right. Like, yeah, the momentum where it was and how it felt on the night, the calls were 100% made correctly and perfectly. They were in tune with their audience, with their own momentum that they had created. This was the only one that, like, the only thing I can think of is they wanted to balance. They often do this where they want to balance out the heel and face wins, so at least there is like the heel victory going into something. This match didn't need it. It's the only question booking for me. Like, they don't give New Day a nice Mania moment after one of their guys broke their neck and just narrowly escaped paralysis. Like, I don't even... You didn't give them a WrestleMania win? Just like a nice moment? Really? Are you crazy? It's such an easy win. And the WWE, this is a layup. You just give them a nice moment and just let them celebrate their friend. No. Extinguished. Yeah, I can't believe it. The match itself, it was quick, like really quick. Both nice and nothing at the same time. An ending out of pure continuing a TV rivalry. It's like, fine. Well, like, honestly, this was maybe worse than cutting the match. Like, putting it here, because again, getting New Day on the card to celebrate Big E, that is awesome. But then you don't let them celebrate Big E. You give them that entrance, you give them the little spots during the match. You didn't have them lose. I'm sorry, what? And to the point where I'm like, well, surely this is building to like an after-match thing. Like, nah, after the match, it's just them beating them down again, and if they hold back Butch from doing even more damage, fine. Whatever. Yeah. You can't even give them a nice win at WrestleMania. You give them a 2-minute loss. Come on, that is lame. That is lame. Good God. Anyway, building up towards like the ending stuff of this show. Hall of Fame and another lengthy Undertaker entrance, and he just walks about, just having a good stare. Just like, yeah, that guy's, yeah. He had a longer bit than, like, this was here. So, I don't know. Hey, they didn't want the Night 2 people to feel left out, I guess. And I was watching this going, I'll just go to the toilet. It's just like, I went and had a pee, and The Undertaker was still out there when I got back. I was like, none of this time going to be given to the last match? Like, really? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool, yeah. And again, like, over the course of the 2 nights, the one thing that I forgot to mention, the rhythm of ad breaks was pretty sharp sting. Not only were they the ad breaks when Peacock starts running their ads, but every single match also had a promo package. And like on night 1, they were also showing promo packages for upcoming night 2. To be fair, there might have been when the ads were playing on night 1. I feel like, to be fair, that was a bit more natural, just replaying what happened on night 1. I could tell when there's an ad break on Peacock on this night because they went to a night 1 kind of replay. But still, it was a weird rhythm where you feel like so much time is being taken up by recaps, and it's like the TV show. Like when you watch their TV show, there are so many recaps, there are so many video, like just extra fluff and things where the momentum of the show feels like it's constantly stalling and or going backwards, and then before coming back, like the attention is all over the place. The flow just isn't right. The flow for these shows was fine. The built up relatively really, really well. But there was a lot of in between fluff and faff, which is like when I watch a different company show, I feel like New Japan's the biggest kind of opposite to that. A match ends, the music dies down, the match card appears for the next one, and they're out immediately. It's like the downtime in between matches is non-existent. Whilst this is, you're looking at oftentimes 15 to 20 minutes between matches, which is crazy at times. From bell to bell, there are like massive gaps of no action, which says a lot, really. But I felt like the actual overall momentum of both shows was fine. So, yeah, I can't do that. And the final thing I'm going to talk about, which I'm really happy I'm ending on this one, Austin Theory versus Pat McAfee. Another incredible celebrity performance at WrestleMania. Pat has at least been signed to WWE for quite some time, doing the commentary down in NXT, then his heel rivalry with Adam Cole as well, the Undisputed era, which culminated in he had his match with Adam Cole at a takeover, then another one in a 4-on-4 War Games match, which yes, Pat McAfee stealing the show in a War Games match I didn't elsewise particularly care for. To be fair, because I wasn't feeling it going in, and then I wasn't massively invested whilst it was happening. But Pat was great, so I know how great this guy is. I'm one of those wrestling nerd people who's watched the developmental, so knows how great Pat is. And then seeing him on commentary, he's like, yeah, great role in commentary, Michael Cole. But still, anyway, I knew what to expect here, and he massively delivered. Incredible outing from Pat McAfee against Austin Theory, and as well. The presentation side for all this was fantastic, magnifique. The video package for Pat McAfee was fantastic, really getting over that kind of hope of inspiration of a dream coming true, really getting across that emotion really well. It's really difficult not to cheer for him as he comes out. Obviously, play to the crowd, as we'll see later. But first, Vince came out walking down to the ring, no chance in hell, introduces Austin Theory as a future champion. Can't remember. I think he said the specific name of the next title as well at the time. Austin Theory. He put down the ring and he does that and introduce Theory, Austin Theory. That is not to present hypothesis. Posing for a selfie with the man before pissing off to ringside to sit in his nice comfy chair. Pat getting the 7 Nation Army and the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders for his big Mania entrance. It was awesome. Kicking a ball into the crowd from the ramp, in what I've been told is a callback to his career as a punter, which again, don't live in America. I can't even name the teams in the league good in the franchises, whatever they're called in America, because they're not teams, they're franchises, which is the other thing. I need to constantly remember. Yeah, I can't even name the franchises good. Never mind the specific players at said teams, whether they've done well or not. I can name very few. But yeah, so learnt he was a kicking the ball one. The Mania crowd popping huge for everything McAfee did. The NXT watching wrestling nerd crowd like me fully aware of this man's wrestle abilities, and he exuded expectations. Amazing. The crowd to their feet as he climbed up high for a swanton that missed. An awesome shot as Pat was conducting along, climbing up the apron as they were singing 7 Nation Army. Oh, it looked amazing. A huge reaction for him back flipping off the top and popping back up to that top rope for a superplex. Oh, amazing spot. The crowd went crazy for that. And they absolutely exploded for his roll-up win. Brilliant stuff. And obviously, in that occasion, applause to Austin Theory as well. He played his role so damn well. Like, it's his job to make sure that Pat McAfee gets cheered as loud as he can. And going by that explosion of reaction when Pat won, Theory couldn't have done a job any better. Just that's your kind of sign that you absolutely nailed it. They could not wait to see Pat score that win. A really, really good showing. It's just Pat McAfee felt like this absolutely huge WrestleMania moment. Really well done. In his hype state of adrenaline, though, Pat then called out Vince McMahon himself. And when I was watching this, I was like, oh yeah. It had dawned on me that all of the rumours going around before WrestleMania in terms of what matches could happen and some of the crazy ideas so far, every one of them had come true in terms of the surprises, in terms of Steve Austin possibly having a match, in terms of the little things of the AJ Edge match with the Edge leading his own stable had also come true. It's just like, oh wow, like the other rumor was, of course, and Cody Rhodes as well. Don't forget Cody showing up at WrestleMania, but there was realizing that, oh yeah, the other rumor was that Vince McMahon was going to have a match. I was like, oh, okay, that's weird, right? And then the way it went down for me, he's going to have a match. This is the absolute perfect way to do it. It's in a big angle to bring out Austin. Yes, perfect. So Pat calls out Vince, and the boss accepts, takes off his shirt, takes off his blazer, takes off his shirt, and he's got the vest on like classic Vince. And yeah, it's an official in the ring. Colt going crazy in commentary. He's like, why is there an official in the ring? Rings for the bell. Theory clobbering Pat before the bell though. Out the ring he slides, and Vince calling for the referee to ring that bell. Pat Mcafee versus Vince McMahon suddenly happens. Holy shit. Yes, this is happening at WrestleMania. Vince giving the boy a beating as the crowd were hyping him back up with the Seven Nation Army chant, getting him get that motivation back there, proving just how into Pat McAfee they were. And Vince's playground working against Pat, like toying with the guy as the game was never fair. And in the end, he kicked a football into Pat to score the win. Just extinguished that Pat guy. He got an amazing reaction, and the crowd were going crazy for him. Nah, it's a Vince McMahon, 80-year-old man, pin him by kicking a football into him. Like, they really sold that Austin Theory had obviously beaten him down. He'd been through that grueling match with Theory, and then they're just toying with him, and eventually he's just over on Vince McMahon's whim. And all of this heat, it's getting hot in here. Like, we need a little cooling down. Like, I need a nice, refreshing cold beverage of sort, like a cold alcoholic beverage. Like, it's just getting hot. And like Vince and Austin are hugging in the rim. Austin. Oh wait, glass shatters. Dallas goes crazy. An amazing stunner oversell by Theory before we got our classic beer drink into a stunner. It's like, yes, really dragging it out, and eventually Austin hits the stunner. Amazing. Quite possibly two polar opposite ends of the stunner cell. We got two amazing stunner cells from Austin Theory and Pat McAfee. And Vince outdoes himself for quite possibly the worst stunner cell I've ever seen. Oh dear. Austin goes to grab the head, and he would then like sit down onto his butt. But Vince McMahon, when he gets his head grabbed, because it goes a bit off balance and then just kind of falls backwards into the ropes, and then uses that as the idea to then rebound and kind of fall into it there. But it's just all wrong, and Vince kind of just cobbles over to his knees. It's absolutely hilarious. It's quite possibly my favourite thing. If you were to ask me what's my favourite stunner cell, I might say that one. It made me laugh so much. Oh, it was, absolutely amazing. Right at the death, right at Austin's kind of final big hurrah showing, Vince McMahon outdoes himself for the absolute best stunner cell. Amazing. But then also Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. Austin Theory selling like Zebedee from the Magic Roundabout, that's a very British reference, where he's essentially like the things on a spring where you push them down and then they go boing. I don't know what you call them. Just a spring toy. Like that. Just stunned, boing, leaped up and then onto his back and then rolled out the ring. Oh, amazing stuff. And Pat McAfee's cell was also incredible. Another amazing cell as he spurts out beer like a fountain in his plank fall down. Just goes spitting out the water. Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. He's then there lying at ringside, like living the dream, like hitting the Mania jackpot. McAfee was. He's there drinking beer at ringside at WrestleMania after taking a stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin, after wrestling Vince McMahon, after winning a scheduled match. Like, that's the Mania jackpot. And of course becomes a meme with him lying at ringside and just drinking beer with the foam of the beer that's missing his mouth just beside his head on the ground. It's like, oh yes, amazing stuff. And that's what led us into the main event of Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar. I really enjoyed these 2 nights of WrestleMania. There was a lot to like, a lot to enjoy. I was thoroughly sports entertained. Here's the other thing. I want to give him there's a lot of applause for this. I felt like both nights were very strong. Not across the board, but in a lot of departments they were very, very strong. The first night had, from match 3 all the way to the main event, a really strong flow. So I felt like night 1 really benefited from that. This one was a lot more ebbs and flowy. It was like, that's a bit of a shame. Like, you got your high points and you got your momentum settlers, then you got your big match, and then you got your weird tag thing. Like, it was my lesser favourite of the like big card structures to have your big match, lesser match, big match, lesser match. I'm not a fan of that. I like the idea of slowly building up, and then every single match is better than the last one. That's how I personally like to do the cards. This was more ebb and flowy, like we're becoming used to with WWE. But it was still a solid show. Like, as a WrestleMania, it felt like the big idea. And I just hope that nobody was doing the drinking game where, every time they say stupendous. No! They say it so much. Why would you do that to yourself? You crazy, crazy people. Anyway, so overall, these 2 nights of WrestleMania, I don't give things numbers. I don't think I can give them a number. Because do I review them as one show? Especially as with WrestleMania, there's a lot of variety out there. And certain people will enjoy certain things more than others. So it's a weird one to try and review, but to give a score. Sorry. So my normal thing is just like more of a phrase or something just to sum up how I'm feeling about it. But for me, there was a lot to like. There was a lot of applause really for both of these shows, and I feel like as a wrestling fan, I'm coming out of this very happy. I really enjoyed WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. I feel absolutely shattered, but the show was good enough where by the time they're ending, I'm hyped enough and awake enough to feel like I can do this kind of thing at like 5, 6 in the morning. I'm perfectly fine to do it because the show was hyped enough and entertaining enough. Like, when the show is bad, like, you really struggle to do this kind of thing. But when the show is, the show is good. You can feel it. You can feel it in your soul. The adrenaline in your soul. Something Cody Rhodes. You can feel it. Yeah. Anyway, so in terms of what's coming up, tomorrow is the Raw after WrestleMania, and there's still like an aura of excitement for these kinds of things. Like, obviously you're going to have Cody Rhodes' debut, some sense of direction for the brand coming out of this. Again, the title will be on SmackDown. Maybe Roman Reigns will show up just as the unified champion in some capacity, but USA want their own title. So they're not... It's a weird circumstance, but they're just going to have to create their own title. But yeah, so Raw after Mania isn't that kind of like classic show where it was like the travelling crowd going to it, like really, really hot, excited, smarky crowd that are like massive wrestling fans. But the shows themselves kind of just haven't been that crazy thing for quite a while. It's been a few years. Like before the pandemic, they'd kind of stopped doing it for a couple of years. Raw after Mania wasn't that anymore. It's relatively standard. So I don't know what it will be tomorrow, but yeah, we'll see. It might be entertaining or not. I'm not covering it. Just to say that. I stopped covering Raw. When was it? A little while ago. I stopped covering Raw. I can't remember when it was. Some point last year. So still, but yeah, we'll have the coverage at the website. There'll be the results and stuff. And the news things. Poor guys who do watch it and come up with the news as soon as it happens. Anyway, so I should possibly be back myself to cover AEW Dynamite this Thursday. If not, I'll jump back on next Thursday. In terms of like the weekly TV stuff, I'm really, obviously I might struggle just to be consistent, but I'll do everything I can this year to be consistent with the pay-per-views, with Aftershock. Keep Aftershock going for both AEW and WWE in the knackering schedule that is. So I think my next thing is WrestleMania Backlash or whatever they're calling next pay-per-view. Then it will be Double or Nothing. So exciting times. Anyway, with that, I say, what did you make of WrestleMania 38, both nights, 1 and 2? Were you happy with the main event? Obviously, I've got some kind of, they're not uniform opinions. Some people liked it, some people loved it, as like the people have had in the chat and the way things were dressed. It's like, for me it was fine. Absolutely fine. But wait, what did you make of it? What did you make of WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2? Let me know in any form, any manner. And with that, you can follow me on the Twitter. I'm Bret Hart now. On the Twitter at the Damn Implicat. Damn as in damn. Also, there's my Twitch there as well. Also, you can for wrestling headlines itself. As I start to stutter all over the place, it is 10 past 6. Wrestling headlines website itself. You can go over to our Twitter at Wrestle Headlines, and also on Facebook, Wrestling Headlines as well, for the latest wrestling news. And with that, I say thank you for listening and engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. And with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.